The sky over Drelok turned red the moment the first human ship broke through the clouds. It wasn't a warning, no one had time for that. It was a scream. The kind of scream the soil makes when ancient bones are disturbed. The kind of scream that makes even predators stop and listen. Sheena, a young warrior of the Julari clan, had just returned from her patrol in the shadow jungles when the alarms went off. Her purple skin shimmered with sweat, and her 4 silver eyes narrowed as she looked toward the northern horizon. Smoke, thick, black, unnatural. "We're under attack," one of the elder sentries cried, her voice shaking. "They came through the forbidden sky gate." "They?" Sheena asked, gripping her spear tighter. "The Zalans?" "No," the elder's lips trembled. "Something worse, humans." The name echoed in Sheena's head like a curse. Stories of humans were whispered around sacred fires. Creatures of fire and bone who ate without fear, killed without mercy, and laughed in storms. The Julari always believed them myths, until now. Moments later, Sheena and her unit were ordered to the front. The dense blue forest had turned into a battlefield. Trees that had stood for centuries now lay shattered. Huge craters dotted the ground, still glowing from impact. And among the wreckage, the impossible happened. A single human, just one, walked calmly across the battlefield, dragging something massive behind him. Sheena's eyes widened. It was a Zarnak. Not just any beast, but the apex predator of Drelok. Taller than trees, armored with blackened bone plates, with claws that could rip metal. Feared even by the Julari. But now, the Zarnak was dead, and the human was dragging it by its tail, whistling. "Is that?" One of the soldiers whispered. "Yes," Sheena muttered, stunned. "He killed it." But that wasn't the worst part. The human stopped, dropped to one knee, and pulled something from his belt. A blade? No. It was sharper than that. It hissed when it met flesh. And then he started cutting pieces from the Xarnak. Not in haste, not in fear. He was calm, focused. And then he took a bite. The entire platoon froze. "He's eating it?" Another warrior gasped. Sheena's breath caught in her throat. "He's feasting." Number Julari in their right mind would even touch a Zarnak's flesh. Its blood was toxic, its meat cursed. And yet here this human was, chewing through it like fruit. The wind carried his voice faintly as he muttered to himself in a strange tongue. And then he looked up, directly at them. 4 Julari soldiers hidden in the canopy. Sheena's heart skipped out. He smiled. "They see me," he said in their language, fluent, clear, terrifying. Before anyone could react, he raised a small device and pressed it. A bright light exploded behind him. Not fire, not plasma, but a wall of heat and shock that forced everyone to the ground. Sheena's ears rang. She opened her eyes to find the human gone. The Zarnak's corpse still there, but the trail vanished. And her instincts told her something terrible. He let them live. He wanted them to tell the story. This wasn't a random attack. This was a message. Sheena couldn't sleep that night. Even the night birds had gone silent. She sat on the high ridge above the jungle, staring at the cold remains of the battlefield. The Zarnak's giant corpse still lay there, untouched. Even the scavengers kept their distance. No beast dared go near the place where the human ate. Her fingers dug into the soft moss beside her. Her world had changed. Everything she thought she knew about danger, about power, had cracked like ice under fire. And one word echoed in her mind over and over again. Why? The elders gathered in the temple at dawn. Their faces were tight with fear. None had spoken since the humans' arrival. Not because they didn't have words, but because they had no answers. When Sheena walked in, silence fell. All eyes turned to her. She had seen him, the eater of the apex, the one who didn't run. "What did you feel?" High Elder Talmik asked her. Sheena looked down. Her voice shook. I felt small, like prey. A low murmur spread across the stone hall. Elder Talmec raised his hand to silence it. This human he was not just fighting. He was sending a message. Elder Venna, keeper of the old texts, opened a dusty scroll. Long ago, before the moons turned red, there were writings of a species from beyond the star belts. Creatures of war. They don't fight for survival. They fight for sport. They eat what we fear. They hunt the hunters, Sheena whispered. Hall fell cold. Hours later, Sheena returned to the jungle. She couldn't stop thinking about the human's face. Not angry. Not cruel. Just calm. Like he had done this 1,000 times. And maybe he had. Her tracker beeped. Movement. She slid into the tall grass and watched. It was him again. The same human. He stood near the Zarnak's corpse. No weapon this time, just looking. Studying, like he was waiting for something. Or someone. What is he doing? She whispered to herself. Then she saw it. He was lighting a small fire. Carefully, respectfully, not for warmth. For cooking. He pulled another strip of the beast's meat, seasoned it with something from his pouch and placed it on the flat rock. It sizzled. He's making a meal. Sheena's eyes narrowed. This wasn't just survival. This was ritual. The way he handled the meat, the way he sat near the fire with his legs crossed, the way he stared into the flames, it was almost sacred. He honors it, she said under her breath. He honors the predator. Then suddenly he spoke without turning. You can come closer, he said in perfect Julri. She froze. I won't hurt you, he added. Unless you try first. Slowly, carefully, Sheena stood from the grass and stepped out into the clearing. Her spear was still in hand but not raised. He didn't look up. Just flip the meat. It tastes better when it's fresh. Sheena swallowed hard. How do you speak our language? He finally looked at her. His eyes were dark, deep like endless space. I learned, long time ago. Why did you come? Here. He didn't answer right away. He pulled the cooked meat off the stone and took a bite. Then, looking into the jungle, he said, because something is coming, something bigger. And you're not ready. Sheena stepped closer, heart pounding. What do you mean? He pointed at the sky. You think the Zarnak is the worst thing out there? It's just an animal. Strong, yes, but not evil. Then what is evil? She asked. He looked at her. Those who kill for control. Who burn worlds just to watch them burn. Sheena took a deep breath. You? He smiled slightly. I'm not here to conquer. I'm here to prepare you. She didn't understand. Prepare us. For what? Before he could answer, a loud roar shook the earth. Not from the jungle. Not from the skies. From beneath. The human stood quickly, face hardening. They're early, he muttered. Who? Sheena asked. He tossed her a small device. When the ground splits open, press this. Run far. Don't look back. What is it? She yelled, heart racing. He grabbed his weapon. It unfolded into a long staff with glowing edges. A beacon. Ah. Beacon for who? She cried. He looked into the distance. For the ones who hunt what even humans fear. And then, without another word, he ran toward the rising smoke. The ground groaned like a dying beast. Trees trembled. Birds scattered. Even the wind seemed afraid. Sheena clutched the strange beacon the human gave her. It pulsed softly in her hand, warm and glowing blue. She had never seen such a device. Not in Julri tech, not even in the old war relics. It hummed like it was alive. Beneath her feet, the soil cracked. Small at first, then wider, then deep. She backed away as the forest floor began to move, not shake, but move. Like something was breathing underneath. Then it came, not with warning, not with shape. A mouth, not a face, just a mouth. Wide, wet, crawling with black tendrils. It tore up through the ground, devouring trees, boulders, anything in its path. And the worst part, it made no sound, no roar, no hiss. Just silence. Sheena froze. Her training vanished. Her spear fell from her hands. Then a voice shouted, "Get back!" The human appeared, charging from the side, his staff glowing with blue. Fire! He slammed it into the beast's side. A blast shot out, forcing the thing to recoil, but only slightly. It was massive. Larger than the Zarnak. Larger than anything Sheena had ever seen. It didn't walk. It slid. It didn't see. It felt. "What is that?" she screamed. "The real apex," the human said. "They sleep deep, until someone wakes them." Who woke it? He gritted his teeth. "Someone who wants this world to burn." The creature lunged. The human rolled, pulling Sheena with him just before the ground where she stood collapsed. He looked at her. "Serious now. You have to call them." "Call who?" "The others," he said. "You're not the only planet they've tried to eat." She looked at the beacon. "This will call." "Other humans?" "No," he said. "Something worse." She hesitated. "Why should I trust you?" He locked eyes with her. "Because I could have killed you back there. But I didn't." Another tentacle slammed into the earth beside them, exploding dirt and roots. Sheena screamed and ducked. The human spun, slicing it off with one strike. The piece twitched and dissolved into black ash. "What is it made of?" she asked, breathless. "Pure hunger," he said. "Nothing else." She looked down at the beacon. It blinked faster now, glowing brighter. "What will happen if I press it?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he ran straight at the creature. "Wait!" she shouted. "What's your name?" "Doesn't matter," he said over his shoulder. "Just press the damn thing when it gets close to the mountain." "The mountain?" He pointed toward the great cliffs beyond the jungle. "It's their nest. If it reaches there, this whole continent is gone." And then he was gone. Swallowed by the fog, chasing a monster no warrior had even imagined. Sheena stood alone now. Her hands trembled. Her heart beat like thunder. The ground under her still moved, and the beacon in her grip pulsed faster. What was this human? A warrior? A ghost? A madman? And why did he care so much? Then she remembered his words. "I'm not here to conquer. I'm here to prepare you." With that, she took a deep breath, turned, and ran toward the mountain. As the sun began to fall, shadows stretched long across the land. And behind those shadows, the thing moved. A monster from under the world. And somewhere ahead of it, one human and one warrior prepared to face the end. Sheena reached the mountain pass just as the last light of day bled out across the sky. The trees here were different, older, quiet, not in fear but in respect. It felt like entering a temple too ancient for words. The beacon in her hand blinked. Faster now. Almost frantic. The earth behind her trembled again. She turned. The creature was near, not running, not hunting, simply moving. It left a trail of silence. Animals fled, wind stopped, even light seemed slower where it passed. Nothing natural wanted to be near it. And then she saw him, the human, standing on a high rock ledge, battered, burnt, but alive. His left shoulder bled, his weapon was scorched. Yet his eyes were locked on the thing below. "You made it," he said. Sheena nodded. "Barely." He glanced at the beacon. "It's time. What will it do?" He looked up at the stars. "Depends who answers. You said it wasn't for humans, because it isn't." He pulled a metal rod from his side pouch and drove it into the ground. The beacon pulsed and response blue became white. The frequency changed. The air felt thinner. The wind returned. "I don't understand," Sheena whispered. "You don't have to," he said. "Just believe this. There are old agreements in space, ancient, older than human history. When one world is threatened by the deep kind, others respond, if they still care." "The deep kind?" she asked. He pointed to the creature as it slithered over a ridge. cracking boulders with its weight. That thing has a name no tongue can hold. It sleeps in planetary cores. It feeds on life. It burns history. Sheena stepped back. Then why would anyone fight it? He looked at her, his eyes tired. Because someone must. Then the Vazi. Beacon screamed, not loud, not harsh, but deep. The kind of sound that made the bones in her legs feel hollow. The kind of sound that made even the stars above shimmer. And the sky answered. A beam of green light shot from the clouds above, striking. The beacon like lightning without thunder. The ground shook. The human fell to one knee. Sheena covered her ears as the sound pierced through every living thing. And then it stopped. Silence again. But not the silence of fear. This was the silence before something arrived. The clouds above swirled, faster, tighter. Glowing symbols formed in the sky. Impossible patterns. Alien to both Julari and human minds. A tear opened in the sky. Not a portal. Not a ship. A being. Orbs of golden fire shaped like wings. A body of shifting metal and vapor. It floated without sound. Light passed through it, but still cast a shadow. Sheena dropped to her knees. The human stood. Tall. The being spoke, not with words, but with feeling. It entered the mind, not painfully, but clearly. You have called, the human replied without moving his lips. His thoughts flowed like words. The deep kind is awake. And this world is not ready. Then it will be judged. Sheena looked up, heart pounding. Judged? We didn't wake it. The being turned toward her. Its voice was like the sound of time itself. Every species is tested. Most fail. Wait, she cried. We are learning. We are trying to protect. Show us. Sheena blinked. Show you? Stand against it, not with hope, not with power, with will. And then without warning, the being vanished. Not faded, vanished, like a dream ending mid-breath. The beacon dimmed. The mountain stopped shaking. Sheena looked at the human. What just happened? He picked up his staff again, wincing. They're watching. Who are they? Judges, protectors, executioners, depends who you ask. And what now? He pointed at the monster, now crawling closer to the mountain's heart. Now we prove we deserve to live. The ground split open like paper soaked in oil. Heat rose from the cracks, not like fire but like breath. The creature had reached the mountain's heart, and it was changing. Tendrils grew longer, sharper. Its black skin began to glow with veins of red, like molten rivers under glass. It stood taller now, no longer crawling but rising. It had evolved. Sheena stood frozen on the ridge, hands shaking. It's adapting. The human nodded slowly, sweat dripping from his chin. It's feeding on the planet's heat. It's not just hunting anymore, it's becoming something else. What can we do? She whispered. We fight. She looked at him in disbelief. You saw what it did to the forest. It swallows everything. And you saw what I did to a Zarnak, he replied. His voice wasn't proud. It wasn't loud. It was certain. Sheena stared at him. His armor was cracked, his shoulder bleeding. And yet he stood like the storm itself bowed to him. You can't do it alone, she said. I won't. He answered. He turned to her, hand out. Stand with. Ma. She hesitated only a second. Then took his hand. Together they ran toward the beast. At the base of the mountain, the land boiled. Stones floated in mid-air from the pressure. The trees were gone, the rivers had turned black. And the thing now fully risen spread its wings, not feathers, not scales. Just long blades of dark energy, sweeping side to side like death's wind. The human lifted his staff. It glowed blue again. Sheena raised her spear. It trembled in her hand. She looked up at the stars. Watch us. They charged. The human struck first, leaping into the air, his body spinning, his staff cutting through one of the beast's tendrils like butter. It shrieked for the first time, a sound that wasn't heard, but felt. It made her chest hurt. Her blood burn. Sheena rolled to the side and stabbed her spear into the ground, drawing a line of glowing crystal through the earth. The energy lit up, creating a barrier. The beast turned to her. Its many eyes opened, blinking sideways. It lunged. She pressed a hidden switch on her belt. Her spear split into 2 blades. Her ancestor's gift. She met its attack with a scream. Of her own, they fought under the mountain's shadow, steel against hunger, will against doom. For a moment, it looked like they had a chance. Then it changed again. From its chest, a new form emerged. A second creature, smaller, faster, like a child of the first, but crueler. It struck the human in the back. Hard he fell. No! Sheena shouted, racing toward him. Blood spilled. The human groaned, trying to rise. Don't stop. Fight. Sheena turned. The creature child now rushed toward her, but something shifted in her. She felt no fear, only rage. Only will. She grabbed her broken blade and hurled it like a thunderbolt. It struck the creature child through the neck, pinning it to the stone. It screeched once, then fell silent. She turned back to the human. He coughed, blood on his lips. You killed it, he said weakly. No, she replied, eyes still on the larger one. We're just getting started. Above them, in the clouds, the watchers watched, unseen, unspoken. But they saw Will. The sky split again, not with color, not with fire, but with presence. The clouds above bent into strange angles. Reality rippled like a disturbed lake, and from those ripples they returned. The watchers. But this time, they didn't come silently. Sound like old voices singing backwards filled the air. Every tree, every stone, every living thing paused. Even the beast froze, sensing something stronger than itself. Sheena knelt beside the human. His blood soaked the soil. His breath was shallow. Don't move, she said. Just hold on, he smiled weakly. It's okay. No, it's not. You're bleeding badly. We can stop it. No, he whispered. You need to finish it, you and them. Sheena looked up. The watchers hovered above. Not one, but 3 now, each different. One of light, one of smoke, one made of sound itself. They didn't speak in words, but she felt them in her bones. You have fought well. The smoke being said, you stand with courage. The light being added, but courage is not enough, said the one made of sound. Then help us. Sheena shouted. The watchers paused. We do not fight your wars, they replied as one. We only offer choice, Sheena's voice cracked. Then give me the choice. The ground beneath them began to open again. The creature was digging deeper, now toward the core. If it reached it, the planet would collapse. The human struggled to lift something from his belt, a final beacon, red this time, glowing dimly. What is that? Sheena asked, taking it from his hand. He coughed. My last gift. It'll tear the monster apart, but... She looked at him. But what? It needs a guide, he whispered. Someone has to carry it into the creature. She froze. The watchers spoke again. This is the cost of survival. So ... Someone dies? Sheena asked quietly. No, someone chooses. She looked at the human. His eyes were half closed, tired, ready. Let me do it, she said softly. He opened his eyes and shook his head. No, I came here for this. But, he smiled again. You have a world to lead. I'm just a stranger with scars. A rumble cracked the mountain again. The beast was near the core. No more time. Sheena stood, beacon in hand, heart breaking. There must be another way. The watchers said nothing. She turned to the human. If you do this, you won't come back. No, he said. But your people will. She pressed her forehead gently to his then handed him the beacon. We will remember, he chuckled. You'd better. And then he ran. One last charge. Limping, Bleeding, slow but unstoppable. He leapt straight into the open mouth of the creature, and as the world held its breath, the mountain exploded. Not fire, not noise, but light. A pure white pulse burst out from the mountain's base. The creature screamed in agony for the first and final time. Every tendril burned, every shadow erased. It twisted, shrieked, cracked open, and fell. The human was gone. But so was the monster. And the mountain stood strong again. Sheena stood alone on the ridge. The watchers hovered above. Silent. You have passed, they said. You gave more than strength. You gave soul. She looked up with tears in her eyes. Will he return? The watchers whispered. No. But you will carry him. And then they vanished once more. The stars returned. The jungle breathed again, and from that day on, every Julari child would grow up knowing one story above all. The day a human came from the sky, ate their greatest fear, and gave his life so they could live. 3 cycles had passed since the day the mountain lit the sky, and still, the jungle whispered his name. Birds didn't sing over that mountain anymore, but not out of fear. They sat quietly, as if listening. Even the wind, when it passed the ridge where the human made his final stand, seemed softer, like it remembered. Sheena stood there now. Not a warrior in armor, but a leader in deep violet robes, trimmed with white. Her hands were calloused, her hair now braided with silver beads, each one a story, and behind her thousands of children, elders, warriors, all gathered in silence at the base of the mountain, where the world had nearly ended. A tall monument now stood there, not made of gold or precious crystal, but of stone and burnt steel, shaped like a spear piercing the sky. At its base was a simple plaque with words burned in both Julari and human language. He came from nowhere. He gave everything. He changed everything. Sheena took a deep breath, then stepped forward to speak. Our ancestors told us stories of hunters and prey, of beasts that ruled by fear, of monsters we never dared to name. But none of those stories could have prepared us for the day the human came. The crowd stayed still, listening, breathing as one. We thought him dangerous, she continued. We thought him mad. But he showed us something we had forgotten. Will. She turned to look up at the great mountain behind her, now blooming again with life. He stood alone, so we wouldn't have to. A soft wind passed through the trees. Someone in the crowd began to cry. Others held each other. Julari were not known for public tears, but that day, none held back. From this day on, she said, this mountain will be called Varkel. In our tongue it means the unbroken flame. Gasps spread through the crowd. Varkel was a sacred word, never given lightly. And each year, Sheena continued, we will gather, not just to remember, but to teach, to tell our children not about death, but about choice. At that moment, the clouds above shimmered briefly, and just for a second, no more than a breath, 3 shapes passed across the sun: light, smoke, and sound. They were watching. Again. Later that night, Sheena walked alone into the heart of the jungle, toward the very ridge where she first saw the human feasting on the Zarnak. The bones of that creature were still there, blackened and hollow, untouched, sacred now. She sat beside them, not afraid, and spoke aloud. You told me your name didn't matter. She touched a small silver pendant around her neck, a gift from the human, once part of his armor, but it does. Even if I never knew it, you were not just a human, you were a mirror. You showed us what we could be, who we should be. A rustle in the trees. Just wind, or maybe something more. She stood. I hope, wherever you are now, you know, you didn't just save this world, you made it worthy. And as she turned to walk away, she didn't notice the faint glow that passed through the bones of the dead Zarnak. Not fire, not magic, but memory. Epilogue. Years later, A Julari child sat at the edge of a fire and listened as the storyteller spoke. They say he came from a broken world, that his people had seen many monsters, and that he too was once hunted. But he learned something powerful. Not just how to fight, but how to stand. The child's eyes were wide. Do you think he'll ever come back? The storyteller smiled. No, but maybe someone like him will. The fire crackled, and the stars above burned quietly, waiting.